Like the last batch of blue tansy that came. They tested it. They sent it to me. I smelled it. I didn't see the GC. They just sent the oil home with Mary and said, will you have Gary just do a smell test and see if he would pass this? I think part of it was secretly they didn't want me to know that there was a thuone compound in it that's not supposed to be there, because it didn't affect the smell at all to them. But I smelled it as soon as I took it out of the bag. And I said to Mary, this couldn't possibly meet the test. Why did they send it home with you? Anyway, so I called Mike and he says, Gary, it's got thuone in it. He said, what do you want us to do? And I said, send it back. So I sent it back. And, and everybody just went, oh. Because we knew what it meant. And we knew all the calls that would be on the phone saying, I want Valor.
So is that compound a chemical, or is that just an extra compound in the plant that shouldn't be there?
What they did is the people that wildcrafted in Morocco, they probably gathered it with some mugwort, because thuone comes from mugwort, or that particular thuone did. Very common in mugwort. So my feeling is they still mugwort in with the blue tansy to create more volume.
Gary.
So Gary, you know the company that has it.
When the oil is in the root.
Pardon?
When the oil is in the root, that's the time the plants grow on the top, right? That's when the plant increases in size at the top in the summertime. And when it goes to the leaves, it just protects it during the winter. Is that right?
In the trees?
Yes.
Yeah.
It just protects it in the wintertime. That's why we cut the top and chip them. We chip them only in the
wintertime. Well, it's not just the tops; it's the whole tree.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is when the oil is in the root.
Yeah.
That's the only time that it grows on top.
Oh, yes. Okay. To redefine that, the oil in the tree is like the blood in your body. It's the transport mechanism of the minerals and the nutrients that's taken up by the roots. That's carried up into the tree, and then the oxygen molecules that's absorbed through the needles combine with it to create the essential oil. That happens after 52 degrees. Then that starts migrating and transporting the nutrients up to stimulate the growth for the limbs and the needles. So in conifer trees, you watch them in the spring and you'll see the end of the limbs, the branches, they'll have about 2 inches that are almost a fluorescent green color. That's the brand new growth that develops through that summer cycle that will be about, by the time that cycle shuts down, it'll grow between 6 and 8 inches. And then as soon as it gets cold, the oil migrates back into the roots and changes its phase and comes back up, not as oil, not as nutrients in the summer, because it's a transporter for nutrients in the summer, but in the winter it converts and comes back as vapor to go into the branches and the needles as antifreeze, a substance to prevent freezing and death to the plant. So it's a preserving agency to take the plant through the cold winter. So that's the whole mechanism of the oil migration up and down the tree. Now in plants, you say the same thing. They go dormant in the winter, and then they come back in the spring. So they go back into the roots. And with lavender particularly, and when we harvest lavender, you notice that once it's cut, it's like it has a bonnet on it, kind of like a mushroom. The main purpose of that is that mushroom protects the roots so they don't winter kill. And during the winter, they're gathering and collecting nutrients to give the plant strength to get through the winter months to prepare it for rebirth again in the spring and giving birth. So it's a beautiful phenomenon, just to watch it happen, grow and produce oil.
Thank you.
Vaughn, you had a question?
Well, I just said, when she asked, like, then you send it back, the world of oils is very small.
Yeah.
So we know where those oils go.
Yeah.
Because it's, when you're in the industry, there's a oil cartel. I mean, it's
Yeah,
a small world.
exactly.
So we know what companies take those oils,
Yep.
so.
What about our farms? Can you clarify with that?
Yes, Jen.
April. Sister.
April.
She's Jen at this moment.
Oh.
And I have to tell you why, because, where is Jen? She's not here. Because I called Jen April. Anyway, so now we're good.
She had asked you about what we do with, like we gave the example of the blue tansy being sent back. Will you clarify with what you do with it on our farms? I mean, we don't send it back because it's our farm. So what do you do with rejected oil from our farm?
Or do we ever
Okay.
have?
A good question.
Do we ever have rejected oils?
Absolutely. And all three of those people have headstones now. But anyway, have I rejected oils on our farm? Yes. And here's why, is because they overheated the process and the distillation and scorched the oil. Any oil that doesn't meet my standard, whether it's on my farm or another farm, is rejected. You know, the only difference between my oils that I reject, I reuse them. I put them in my spray as an herbicide. And we put them out like basil. I'll mix it with, I've had some bad basil in the past. Haven't for a number of years, but I still use basil. But if I get bad oil, I'll mix it with basil. I'll mix it with tansy, not blue tansy, Idaho tansy. I mix it with Palo Santo as a spray for the plants. Like a natural herbicide, we do that. So there's not too much bad oil that doesn't get used in a way. I've made horse spray with it because it's not that it's 100% bad, but it's off. All the molecules are distorted, not all of them, but some of them are distorted a little bit. The ketones are fractured, so the fragrance has changed. And most people don't smell it, but I can smell it. I can tell when it's been burnt or scorched. And so I'll use it around the animal pens, you know, spraying flies and things like that, because it still has some value. I won't use it
But
for the
you're not
distributor
selling
market.
it to any other companies.
Pardon?
You're not selling it.
Oh, geez, I dump it down the drain first.
I mean, I guess that's what really everybody wanted to hear,
Yeah.
the bottom line.
If another company had my bad oils, they'd be starting to get good quality.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And can you talk about our peppermint oil, which smelled differently 2 years ago, maybe? Remember? We have a batch of the peppermint
Oh, the
oil.
peppermint.
Shelton thing,
The-
that was a Melissa Shelton thing with the oil.
Oh,
That was 2012. wasn't
yeah.
it?
That was a story that was almost the same as our cinnamon.
Oh, yeah.
You know, a person again that knew absolutely nothing what she was talking about, wanted to be an authority, wanted to become important, and didn't have a clue what she was talking about. I'm not even going to go there because I don't even remember all the details and it isn't worth it. But it was just another, just like cinnamon.
No, I mean, why it was.
Why do different
Why-
batches of
yeah.
peppermint
Why
have
do they
different
smell
smells?
different?
Why do they
Oh.
smell different?
Sometimes it's
Yeah.
not as
Okay.
pleasant as
Yeah.
other times.
I'm going to ask you all a question now. It's my turn. How many of you want your oils to smell the same all the time?
Can I give my take? I mean, come on, if you buy a watermelon or a vegetable, sometimes it tastes good, sometimes the weather. Sometimes a little more sugary, sometimes
Oh, Mother Nature.
hard.
Yeah.
Great. Just going to say wine, yeah.
What maybe will help you is to know, is this like today? The weather condition changes, the humidity changes, the barometric pressure changes from week to week, season to season, and those changes affect the oil. And to give you just an example, even the changes will vary from, I call it longitude to longitude on our world globe. latitude also, whether it's the southeastern hemisphere below the 45th parallel or the northwestern hemisphere above the 45th parallel, weather changes affect plants. You cannot, in fact, I can tell you this, from when I start harvesting lavender, which will be the last week of June, until I finish my harvest the 15th of July, the generally our window, the oil I produce here and the oil I produce here doesn't have the same exact chemistry. It is impossible. The only way you can have the exact same chemistry is manufactured in a laboratory.
That's right.
Okay? So if you want the same chemistry, you're in the wrong place. But that's why you'll get variances in smell. If the summer temperature is cool, the methone and the methanol content of peppermint will be lower than if it's hot. So just temperature will vary the percentage of certain molecules in an oil that will affect the fragrance. And that's all, simple as that. You will also get certain molecules like in spearmint, which is carvone, makes up about, with all the carvones combined, it can make up about 60% in spearmint. You distill spearmint in Louisiana, you'll have maybe 48% carvones. You distill spearmint in Utah, you can have 62% carvone. Does that mean that the spearmint in Louisiana is bad spearmint? No. No. It's just that in Louisiana, they had a cool summer, and Utah had a hot summer. The next year, it could be the reverse of that. So what do I do when I'm looking for a quality of oil? I look for a range that those molecules fall into to determine, are they balanced, number one. So do I have the right amount of carvone compared to methone? Do I have the right amount of carvone, methone compared to the esters that I want? Are all of those molecules in sequential balance? That's what I look for. As long as they're in sequential balance, I'm not concerned if they vary a little bit, because that's what nature does. And if I'm contrary to that, I'm contrary to God. And I'm saying, hey, you don't know how to do your job. Let me take over here. So we'll always have that as long as we deal with nature. And it's something, again, that sets us apart of recognizing that we're not in charge. But where we make the difference is how we distill it, how we harvest it. Do we harvest it at the right time to capture the majority? You'll never capture 100% because you're going to have some loss just in the harvesting and the transporting and the processing. It's just part of it. But again, it's capturing the essence and not losing the essence. Even if you lose, 0.1% of a molecule, you'll still have the essence. And you'll still have that energy. And it's so critical because we're energetic beings. Everything is energy. And once we know that, then we look for that has balanced harmonics. And it works. So there's just so much in the whole process of studying to understand why lavender today doesn't smell the same as it did 2 years ago. And yet, next year, holy cow, it smells like it did last year. And that happens a lot. I have distributors that will say, I prefer Idaho lavender over Utah lavender. I prefer Idaho lavender over French lavender. We get that all the time, But if I handed you a GC of all three of them, you go, well, which one is Idaho's? So what makes a difference? What does some people feel the difference? Why do some people, in fact, is there anybody here that prefers St. Mary's lavender? We don't market St. Mary's lavender today separate. We did up till a couple of years ago. I don't remember.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I know there's a lot of you here that had St. Mary's lavender. How many of you preferred St. Mary's lavender over the rest? Bingo. Okay? Why? Why? It has nothing to do with the molecules in the oil that you liked. It's the frequency. The St. Mary's lavender grows in a whole different environment. and it's in a very non-polluted, very high spiritual area where St. Mary's is at. What you're connecting to is the spiritual harmonics of the St. Mary's lavender that's greater than Utah or France, because Utah has a freeway going by the field, and France has all this and that, and it's life. St. Mary's is very isolated, very protected, but can we grow enough lavender in St. Mary's for young living? Not a chance, so it's very special.
The equatorial belt is moving. Are you aware of that?
And what?
The equatorial belt is moving as we speak. It's moving, and they even know where it's shifting to. I will send you that video.
Okay.
Okay, and that could be one of your variances as well.
It can be. There's a lot of things that contribute to that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, anything? Yes.
I'm very excited to hear the emotional part of the convention that you're going to speak on. I think it's 2 hours, so emotional oils. Can you give us a little preview about
Who
what
told you it was 2 hours?
Yeah, the schedule said 2 hours.
Well, they'll make a mistake if they put me on stage for 2 hours.
What are you gonna,
Probably
maybe a
much
little
more.
preview about what you're going to say.
What am I going to do?
What are you going to talk about? That's my favorite part about the oils, is the emotional aspect.
Come to convention.